The new Aorus 15 gaming laptop is packing some powerful specs in a small package, but just how hot does it get with Intel's latest 9750H CPU? I'll be taking a detailed look at thermals and overclocking and seeing how much we can improve performance by undervolting, changing fan speed, and using a cooling pad. I've got the Aorus 15XA, which means there's an Intel i7 9750H CPU and Nvidia RTX 2070 graphics, no Max-Q here. However, it's available in a few configurations. You can find some examples along with updated prices linked in the description. On the bottom of the laptop, we can see we've got quite a large air intake vent, so this should help out when we test with the cooling pad. The rubber feet also seem to be angled such that they block the hot air being exhausted from coming straight back into the fans, so cooler air should only be pulled in from the front. There are also quite a few heat pipes here, and some are shared between the processor and graphics, so a change in one component will affect the other. For instance, if the CPU gets hot, the graphics will be affected as a result. I'll also briefly talk about Gigabyte's new AI feature that comes with their new laptops. It's been updated to include 3 modes, AI Edge and 2 cloud options, AI Download and AI Download and Upload. AI Edge processes data locally to make the best decisions in terms of what to change, like power limits and clock speeds, while the AI Cloud settings get data from Microsoft Azure. The download only option is new, and rather than sending your data to the cloud to improve the service, it only downloads profiles to help it run better. The download and upload one, on the other hand, will submit data though. All tests had AI disabled, except where explicitly mentioned. The Aorus Control Center software allows you to choose between 5 levels of CPU power and 2 for the GPU. The CPU settings boost the maximum TDP between these levels, while GPU level 0 is stock and level 1 boosts the core clock by 140 MHz and memory by 70 MHz. Anytime you press the fan button on the keyboard to boost the fan speed, GPU mode 1 is automatically engaged, overclocking the graphics. For the purposes of this video, when maximum fan speed is mentioned, I'm running the CPU at level 4 for the highest limit, and GPU at level 1. While at default stock levels, I'm running the CPU at level 2 and GPU at level 0. Thermal testing was completed with an ambient temperature of 21 degrees Celsius. Expect different results in different environments. There's a lot of data here. CPU temperatures are shown by the blue bars and GPU temperatures are shown by the green bars. We're looking at combined CPU and GPU load here, so both are fully loaded as a worst case. The gaming tests towards the upper half of the graph were tested by playing Watch Dogs 2, as I find it to use a good amount of combined processor and graphics resources. The stress tests were tested by running the Ada64 CPU stress test and Heaven GPU benchmark at the same time to fully load the system. This isn't meant to show typical performance. The worst case results allow you to compare with my previous testing. The idle temperatures down the bottom are looking fine. Let's start with the stress tests. At stock, the CPU was thermal throttling at 96 degrees Celsius, while the GPU was thermal throttling at 92. Even with the minus 0.15 volt undervolt to the CPU, we're not seeing changes to temperatures. However, we'll see how clock speeds were affected in the next graph. If we max out the fan, the GPU temperatures drop back to 86, though hardware info still lists it as thermal throttling. With the CPU undervolt applied too, the CPU is now thermal throttling intermittently rather than constantly. And if we add on the Thermaltake Massive 20 cooling pad, the CPU temperature drops by 9 degrees, though no change in temperatures to the GPU. Moving up to the gaming results, again there was thermal throttling with a fan at default speed. I'll also note that for the gaming tests, I'm undervolting the CPU and GPU, rather than just the CPU only. In the stress tests, I didn't test with the GPU undervolt due to reasons. Anyway, in most cases, both are still running quite hot. The AI settings didn't appear to help in this game. I got the same thermals as running the machine at stock with the default fan speed. In the past, the AI would control the fan speed. In this case, it didn't touch it and the fan speed remained unchanged, resulting in the temperatures we've got here. The best results are seen right up the top when the fan is at maximum, CPU and GPU are undervolted, and the cooling pad is in use. These are the average clock speeds for the same tests just shown. If we start with the stress tests down the bottom, we can see the GPU is downclocking quite a bit to keep cool. Same with the CPU. With the minus 0.15 volt CPU undervolt, we can boost average clock speed by 450 MHz over all 6 cores. Simply by boosting the fan speed, we almost see a similar improvement to CPU performance, but also to the graphics, as this helps reduce the thermal throttling. With the CPU undervolt applied in combination with the fans maxed out, we're basically reaching the full 4.0 GHz all-core turbo speed of the i7 9750H CPU. With the cooling pad added, despite thermal throttling still being reported on the GPU as we saw before, the clock speed does rise a bit now. and the CPU is now solid at 4 GHz. In the gaming tests, we can see the clock speed increase with the GPU undervolts, as this helps reduce the thermal throttling taking place. The CPU undervolt is also seeing us get pretty much full performance, even without resorting to boosting the fan speed, which is good because as you'll hear soon, it gets pretty loud. The AI settings, like we saw in the temperatures, are performing similar to the stock settings. Again, this seems to be due to the AI feature not controlling the fan speed for some reason, so hopefully that will be updated in the future. I'm pretty sure the old model did it. Up the top, we're getting the best result in terms of clock speed with CPU and GPU undervolted and the cooling pad in use. As this was the only test, the GPU was no longer thermal throttling, the clock speed is the highest out of all results. These are the clock speeds I got while just running CPU-only stress tests without any GPU load. As mentioned earlier, there are 5 different levels in the Aorus Control Center software that control CPU TDP, so these are the clock speeds we're able to achieve with each. With the 62-watt limit at level 4, we're only just below the full 4.0 GHz boost speed of the 9750H. The undervolt gets us all the way though. These are the temperatures for the same tests just shown. As the TDP increases, resulting in higher clock speed, so do the temperatures. The undervolt provided a massive improvement here of about 15 degrees, while also performing the best. Here are the average CPU TDPs from these tests. So the undervolt puts us around the power usage of level 1 with similar temperatures, but with 500 MHz of extra performance over all 6 cores. To demonstrate how this translates into performance, I've got some Cinebench CPU benchmarks here. There's no difference in single core, as that's not enough to trigger throttling. Though even in the best case, with the CPU undervolted and no restrictions, I was still seeing similar scores to the 8750H. I will be comparing these two CPUs in a future video though, so make sure you're subscribed for that. Here's what we're looking at in Cinebench R20. Until I have more data from other laptops, I'll keep including results from both. Here are the GPU-only clock speeds, while under a graphical-only stress test. Just as a reminder, the GPU 0 setting in the Aorus Control Center software is default, while GPU 1 overclocks the core by 140 MHz. With my crappy undervolt, I was getting similar speeds to a default. And when we check the temperatures, the thermal throttling was removed with this, though it only lowered by 1 degree under this workload. Given its thermal throttling at both levels 0 and 1 at the same temperature, the clock speeds in the previous graph are likely not accurate. It does seem a bit strange that even with the fan maxed out, the GPU was thermal throttling under GPU-only stress test, but I suppose it is the full fat 2070, and this is the first laptop I've had with it, so I don't really know what the normal is there. So how do these performance boosts actually translate into games? I've tested with the exact same Windows, Nvidia, and game updates installed. Far Cry 5 was tested using the built-in benchmark at 1080p with ultra settings. Down the bottom, I tested with both the CPU and GPU maxed out in the Aorus Control Center software. The only difference was one had the fan at default speed and the other at maximum. This simple change gave 9% higher FPS, as it helps reduce thermal throttling. I'll note that the AI settings in themselves do not modify fan speed, as covered earlier, but I tested with the fan maxed out to try and show best case performance with them. Though as we can see, it's basically the same as not using it. The results up the top with the manual undervolting gave us the best performance. As for the external temperatures where you'll actually be putting your hands, at idle it was about average in the low 30s. While gaming it gets to the mid 40s in the center. A little warm but definitely not hot feeling. With the stress tests running it's a little cooler, with noticeably cooler WASD keys. As for the fan noise produced by the laptop, I'll let you have a listen to some of these tests. At idle it was quiet, however the fan was making this sort of pulsating noise. With the stress tests running or gaming, it was about average compared to other gaming laptops. But when we hit the fan button to max it out, it gets very loud. Normally, I like at least having the option of raising the fan speed. However, in this case, there doesn't seem to be granular control. I wasn't able to adjust it like in previous models, so it seems to be either all or nothing in terms of fan speed. In general, the Aorus 15XA runs fairly hot, at least in my top-end configuration here with full 2070 and 9750H. I'd expect others to run a bit cooler. Even with undervolting, we didn't really improve temperatures by that much. However, this did significantly improve the performance. It's worth noting that we're able to boost the power limits over the CPU's specified 45W TDP rating though. Many laptops don't give us the option and perform worse as a result, though the trade-off to this increased performance is of course higher temperatures, so it's good that Aorus is equipped with such powerful fans. The only downside of those powerful fans is at this time, they don't seem to give you the ability to customize the fan speed like with older models. Hopefully that changes in the future. In most cases, once undervolted, we're able to get the full 4.0 GHz all-core turbo speed from the 9750H CPU, even under worst case combined CPU and GPU load, which I think is pretty good, given there are other laptops that cannot hit full boost speed under these tests. In my tests, the AI didn't seem to do much, so I'd just stick to undervolting, and if you can put up with the extra fan noise, boosting the fan speed also. I'll also note that despite the power of the 9750H and Max-P 2070, the battery never drained at any point with a 230 watt power brick in use. These differences in performance shown aren't hard and fast rules. There are different factors which will vary results, primarily the temperature of the room you're running in, application of thermal paste, and even the specific hardware which comes down to the silicon lottery. You may not be able to undervolt or overclock your hardware the same as me. It depends on the chip and its specific power requirements. So don't just blindly copy my settings and do some testing to find out where your stable point is for best results. It may be possible to further improve temperatures by swapping the thermal paste. However, as this is a review unit that I have to send back, I'm not able to change the paste. Otherwise, the next reviewer will unknowingly report different results due to what I've done. Undervolting, raising the fan speed, or even just using a cooling pad to improve airflow is much easier for most people to do. And as we've seen, these did improve the performance in the Aorus 15. Let me know how much of a performance boost you found by undervolting your hardware and what you thought of the improvements here. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for the full review of the Aorus 15 gaming laptop, as well as future tech videos like this one.